here. They're even aware of it. LCO here, and that is the ultimate connected.
Themselves into a false fight. Final 20 minutes on these goals.
Only player to lock in this lane. There is just no damage for the Chiefs. Braden gets the first pentakill of the LCO.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another beautiful afternoon, evening, night, whatever it is. It's another one of those for the DoorDash LCO. It's day 7. It means it's the final day of the first round robin. So after today, all of the teams will have had a chance to go toe-to-toe with one another. But before we get back into the action today, let's have a look back towards next week, last week. I'm all over the place. Let's look at last week and just run the clip, Phil.
They recalled it would be a losing situation regardless, so they at least have to remove the option for, oh my god, okay.
Hang on a minute, Civil just does not care. He's a man on a mission right now. 1v5,
Okay.
gonna jump on through, receives the wild growth, knocks everybody up, survives the tail-to-tail, and goes here once again. These stopwatches are on point, finds a reset angle, and can look to try and cycle through those cooldowns to try and jump back in once more. He's got himself a double
They're
kill.
winning.
Now Star getting himself onto the score sheet. A Baron, a 2-lane Dragon, forget about it. They might just end the game at 23 minutes. This Cogmore, so he's just a fraction more durable. Has the flash, has the heal, has the ability to try and run down members like this, but might just die for free. Oh no, the wild growth, and it overlaps there. With the stopwatch, he's just an easy picking. He might just die, he certainly does. The Ignite takes him down and just needs to shut that head for this insane instead. LeBlanc that gets himself a double kill. The carries of Gravitas picking apart. Members of Mammoth are just falling one by one. Goodo from start to finish tries to continue to be the saving grace. On a 1v9 show, they're going to chuck him in. Beats looking to lock in place a key target. Turn their attention now on towards Claire. He's locked in place, forced to dash away. But in a 3-man moonfall, and it's just lights out for Direwolves, just like that. Kevy finds a double. It's a double also for Puma. And Maximize says, I can't let the rescue team have all the fun. I need to get myself a kill as well. Another ultimate, another kill. 3 times. A definite niche, but Liv is looking to try and showcase what it can do. He's got the ultimate, the Endless Rage could be there to try and keep him topped up and healthy as he gets low and he's dying. There it is, Undying, and flashing forward to try and get the killing blow. Spin to win, tops himself up, sidesteps the bomb. The Triumph connects, and he lives the tail-to-tail swipe, jumping in on the execute. Hits you with the thumbs up for disrespect, and Chiefs looking so damn clean.
Absolutely ridiculous scenes last week on the DoorDash LCO, and I hope we get more of that coming up this week, because of course it is the Super Week this week. We've got 3 days of games, and that's going to be sick. And to bring you guys all the action, of course, we have some help here. Let's bring them in. We've got Jubes and the Skiminator today. How you doing, Skimmy?
Oh, bro, I'm getting goosebumps just watching some of those clips back, because we had so many insanely close moments, right? That final one for me with the Trendemir lock-in, where it just blew my mind. And then the fact that the Evelyn gets that kill even after the flash away. I mean, it's just pixel perfect.
Just complete ridiculousness. Now, go ahead, Jubes. You know,
no, that play made Shock's cap of the day. If you watch the Direwolves content piece, because if you watch that back, Chaz missed like every ability, literally every one, and the only thing he hit was his auto attack. So unlucky there, Chaz.
Ooh, just really putting him down before he's given a chance here in week 4 of the LCO now. Now, speaking of week 4, let's have a quick look at the standings and where all the teams are currently sitting now. Skimmy, you were here last week. Jubes, you were as well, because you were doing all the interviews. That's right. So, look, nothing really for you guys to put your input in here other than Chiefs to win 5-1, Peace and Pentsnet and Order all 4-2. You got Gravitas in 5th, and then Direwolves, Legacy and Mammoth in 6th and 8th there. So, bit of a topsy-turvy table at the moment. Direwolves looking way lower than a lot of people had on their initial power rankings. I guess, Jubes, you know, anything you want to say about this before we get into the meat and potatoes today?
I think it's looking, I guess, how we expected, minus the Chiefs, right? They've probably overperformed a little bit. And when I say overperformed, like you have to give them the credit to say that they've improved. And they're looking like the most dominant team we have right now. So other than that, it's probably shaped up how we kind of expected. You know, maybe Direwolves is a little lower than we thought, but at the end of the day, reputations only mean so much when you've had a few, stumbles at the finish line.
Yeah, and the other thing to note from all that as well is Gravitas at the moment have as many wins right now as they did at the end of last season. So they are performing exceptionally compared to what we saw from them in Split 1. So, you know, Split 2 Gravitas may just continue to be on the come up. You know, Legacy beat Peace as well, which is something that we can quickly have a touch on. Skimmy, if you want to recap that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's the perfect week, really, for Legacy, isn't it, right? They start off the season, week 1 and 2, with just multiple defeats. And, we even had that interview asking Seri, saying, at what point do you think that momentum is necessary? At what point, do you need to continue to iterate to your plays that, trust the process? Well, the process clearly paid off, right? A big win against Direwolves, then a win against against Peace as well, in the most upsetting fashion. You saw it there in the pre-game interview or the pre-game montage, I suppose, is what you're looking at right there. And it's a team that loves to be aggressive. They've got punished multiple times for it, but it feels like they've found that moment of magic now.
And look, before we let's jump into the schedule, but I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here, Jubes. You did say you were spinning one storyline, and you were going to change that storyline starting this week.
You want to refresh my memory?
That experience might not be the greatest thing.
Yeah, so I was talking about the Direwolves. I was talking about the Direwolves and the Chiefs, and I kind of touched on that a little bit before. I said we keep harping on about this Direwolf narrative where, like, you look at Cupcake, you look at Claire, you look at Shock, and these players are just some of the best on the server, or at once upon a time they were. But at what point do we stop pushing that narrative and we look at it for face value? They're 2-4. They've not really shown us much this split, and you know what, even to an extent last split. And I really think they need to step up and they need to have a statement game against the Chiefs, because you start to lose that kind of aura, right? Then all of a sudden, Gravitas come up against you. They're not scared to play against you anymore. They start to think, okay, we're actually a better team. So you really need to get that aura back and make yourself a team that's feared and a team that has that reputation to go by.
Of course you do. Now let's have a quick look at the schedule, which you guys at home have been looking at, of course. 6 p.m. first game of the day is going to be Mammoth and Legacy going head-to-head. 7 p.m. Chiefs and Direwolves, Gravitas and Pentanet there at 8 p.m. And then at 9 p.m. you got Peace and Order, which is going to be the 4 wins, 2 L's clash of the Titans. Now, Skimmy, do you think that'll be the game of the day, or are you looking somewhere else there on the schedule?
I'm actually really excited about the Gravitas Pentanet matchup, personally. I think for me, whilst we've seen the upset of balance, right, the fact that Gravitas have found themselves in this position that resembles where they were last split, so many more weeks, so many more games for them to play to try and break through even further. They've said so early on into the season that they think they're going to be a team that's going to sneak in and pinch that final spot in playoffs. You would imagine so, because the proof seems to be in the pudding. They've grown so much from Split 1 to where they are now. Pentanet look a little bit hindered. They've been experimenting, trying new things since they've come back from MSI. And you start to wonder, is it a bit of an MSI curse? Because it's been happening on a global front too. A lot of these teams, you'd imagine, would come back stronger from versing the best in the world, but it's not necessarily been the case.
Well, someone else that likes pudding is Jubes. And something else that's pretty sweet is the patch notes. We're on a patch 11.13 as we move into week 4 of the LCO. So, Jubes, there's a lot of words here. There's a lot of things that have changed. It's a pretty big patch. Do you want to run us through them?
Yeah, so the first one here is Anathema's Chain. Again, I don't know how we're going to solve out pronunciations, but that's how I'm going to say it. And this item, I think, will be quite useful in certain situations, right? Especially where there's, 1 damage threat comps. We're seeing a lot of like Karma, a lot of Lulu, a lot of things, like a lot of champions like that, where there's a specific focal point of that comp. So it does give tanks like that extra, I guess, build variability to opt in for something that's going to take, less damage from a specific source, if that makes sense. Another kind of item that I guess was like really talked about and feared was Hullbreaker. Everyone thought it was going to be like the coming of Yorick, Nasus, Fiora, even like just side lane goblins, never group, never team fight. But I think in a competitive setting, there's too much emphasis around neutral objectives. If you get the first dragon early on into the game, we're talking about a soul at 25 minutes. And even with you get Hullbreaker second item or third item, let's say the game is going extremely well, you still have to come to group and play that dragon fight, or that, the Elder Soul or the Soul Point. And then you're really wishing you had an item that was more cost efficient, more efficient in the 5v5. So I don't necessarily think this is an item that we're going to see a lot of in like the competitive setting, but for sure, in solo queue, run rampant on the Nasus, the Yorick, take turrets, don't group, get reported, whatever. That'll probably happen, right? Hey, let's call a spade, right? Refusing to group and you're getting reported. Okay, so Strikebreaker is another one. Obviously, this has been the bread and butter for most bruiser-type champions. We saw a big resurgence of Set in a solo lane. Kind of took a back seat, come back into the meta, partly due to Strikebreaker. And the thing that made Set really OP with Strikebreaker was not only the halting slash, but the whole thing's the slash gave you a dash, which was 300 units. Now they've removed that, which is still fine for champions with like Nocturne that have like an innate ability to get into the backline due to the ultimate, right? However, champions without a dash, without a gap close, kind of, I guess, fuel that a little bit, right? So it's going to be interesting to see if that's like an indirect nerf to set or similar champions with like a lack of mobility. And then, you know, since we're talking about mobility, there's big mobility item changes, right? Shirelia's being one. Instead of 60% decaying to 30%, it's just 30% 2 seconds flat. I think that's quite a big change because part of why Shirelia's was so OP was the movement speed. 60%, you think you're safe in mid lane or catching a side lane. Next minute, there's 5 members chasing you down, all with Shirelia's at 60%. So interesting to see if that's still going to be like the first pick that you see on Lulu, on Karma, and those Enchanter type champions. And maybe we won't even see Enchanters. Maybe they're saying, nah, enough's enough, that's too much. And Trinity Force, much of the same, right? You know, attack damage increase, but maybe not too much compared to what, you know, these other items that we're really looking at. Skimmy, I don't know, I rambled a little bit. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, a couple of points actually.
Well, I think you've got a lot. We've got a second page of these.
Oh,
so,
we do? Oh, my
have
bad.
so much. I just want to quickly touch on this first slide screen with the Anathema's Curse, right? It's going to try and deter the idea that we're going to do these like hyper carry compositions where we've seen like double enchanters, backing up a Cogmore, backing up an Aphelios and so on, that, you know, you can just dive them, less tenacity, just going to get one shot, right? The big thing for me with Stridebreaker is, yeah, whilst you've removed the dash to act like a Hextech Proto Belt, the slow now, it went up from like, what, 40% to 90%? So as much as set, maybe not as strong, the idea is that he can still ultimate in, hit the Stridebreaker slow, and he's pretty much done his entire job, right? Everybody's locked in place. It makes it so much easier to hit the face breaker, haymaker, whatever it may be. So a lot of champions are still going to be quite happy with this one. Obviously, you come to the second page here, all the changes. Aphelios, slight buff to some of his passive damage when you can skill into it. We've seen a bit of lethality cheese make its way into solo queue. Tom Kintro's a massive one, right? No longer going to really be viable as a support, given the fact that the W and the R have been switched around. But going to be an interesting one to see how that plays out in the solo lane, at least, right? You know, his dive, bit of damage, bit of a knock-up, and actually a cooldown reduction too, so it can make it very sticky for him to stay on top of you. Turret updates, of course, and the inner turrets, right? So all your turret plates went on those outers. When they fell down, it felt really bad to try and hit a side lane, especially with that second Herald spawn. So a bit more goal, a bit more split pushing, kind of fosters this idea with these two new items with the Hull Breaker and so on. Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot to talk about, but for me, I think the item changes. The main one for me still has to be Stridebreaker. That whilst people say, oh, it's a nerf, the mobility's been removed away from it, which is necessary because there was just too much mobility creep in the game. I still think champions like Nox, Set, Fiora, Shaco, Quinn, all those that could just basically lock you in place, do their job, and let the rest of the team pick up the gold.
Well, gentlemen, it's time to have a quick check at the key picks for the week. And this week we're going to be chatting about a couple of flex picks. So, Jubes, you want to tell me what lanes and positions all of these champs play and why they're good and why that's good?
Oh, I mean, we'll start with Karma, top, mid, sup, Lee Sin, top, mid. We've actually seen it bot lane too with Senna. So Lee Sin is actually a 4-way because it can go jungle as well, just not 80 carry. And then Nocturne, obviously top, mid, jungle, and Viego, top, mid, jungle. Now, these champs obviously get flex 3 ways, and it makes it so hard to pick ban against because you often end up getting the counter pick just through, you know, one picking the champ, right? And it's not, you know, traditional that this was the case. And this is why this is so strong, because if you put Karma in a solo lane, you can counter pick the hard engaged support with Braum in the bot lane. And it feels like this meta in general, and the metas, you know, gone by, are so reliant on having something that can be, you know, flexed in multiple ways. Again, so you can get those counter picks, so you can get those favorable matchups. And it just makes it like such a headache to pick ban against, right? You're picking for a good matchup into Lee Sin in the mid lane, as an example, and then Lee Sin just goes jungle, and then your matchup mid lane is no longer a good one. So it ultimately just comes down to headaches, and that's why you need what is it? A draft lord, mid lord, draft lord coach type coach, because they're going to have to be able to adapt on the fly. And pick ban, I think in general, has become such an important aspect of League of Legends in recent seasons. It used to be, you know, if you lose, like, that's fine, you played bad, work on it, fix it, otherwise. But now, it's more or less about draft. Like, draft is such an important factor. You can almost come out of a game sometimes and say, you know, if we just pick ban that little bit better, if we just drafted that little bit better, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah. And there's definitely a big emphasis on draft. Sometimes I think too much in the sense that people can then say, oh, you know, if we had a better draft, we would have won that game. If we had a better draft, you know, the result would have gone a different way. But sometimes, you know, the bare bottom line, it is the mechanics that can get you across that finishing line, right? So I think really as it stands with the 3-lane flexes, it just makes it so easy for you to try and fill out your composition as to do we need a tank, do we need a, you know, a double AD AP jungle, for instance. What is our goal? Pick, poke, push, split, whatever it may be. As Mac just disappears off the screen now. What are you getting up to over there, mate?
I'm setting up a bit. All right, so we love many things, right? We love pick bans, and we also love fans. This isn't going to work because I don't want to pull out any cables. But let's talk about From the Fans, one of our favorite segments. You guys at home, you need to be sending in all the good content to get on the stream here. Now, sending your op.gg reviews. Remember, you can send in your gameplay clips. You know, if you're completely destroying the opponent in your position and you want to flex and you just want to let everyone know that you really managed to get a bit of revenge maybe, or, you know, someone was talking in all chat telling you, hey, you're bad. And you go, no, you're a pretty good guy. I'll give you that, but I'm going to beat you. Then, you know, send in your clip of you outplaying him instead, you know, and that's the humble approach. Also, weird flex, but it's a good flex to have. Now, we do have one meme ready already, so let's have a quick look at what that is. So, starting the show with a bit of content, it is Triana Ose. Here we go, hashtag LCO, like every week, like it's super week. Oh, live every week, sorry. You know, that's just my dyslexia coming in, so... That's all right. That's all right. We move on. We move on. Anyone have any opinions on this, Dupes?
Well, I think it's a good one.
Yes, very good meme. Skimmy, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's a great one. Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, you should really be looking at every week as a super week because the momentum is seeming to be a bit of a factor in this case, and with this split being the most upside down in terms of predictions and what we sort of valued the team as from split 1 to here, it's a chance for teams to really showcase, you know, we talk about fatigue and whatnot, right? But like, even still, is that even a factor at this stage of the game? Is there a chance for these teams to say, you know, we found what works for us? It's a big patch. We'll see all these changes that we just glossed over. Who can find their feet? Who can identify what's strong enough for their team to get the dub?
Well, we love dubs and we love games. Speaking of games, let's jump into the discussion of the first matchup of the day. Of course, that's going to be Mammoth and Legacy going head-to-head. But let's talk about Mammoth first. So far, so good, Jubes. We've enjoyed what we've seen from a couple of the players on this team with those roster swaps, and they've gotten close a few times, but just not over the line yet.
Yeah, I think if we, you know, in this roster, they've showed us some signs, right? Nectar's had some very big performances on this. Gudo, I think, has been the star of that team. Frost, again, you know, in recent weeks has been stepping up and has actually been, I think, one of the better performing ADs of the weeks that we've had. Obviously, Waze had a bit of a rough time last week. I think that's fair to say. So Mammoth just need to find consistency, and they talk about this all the time, right? They need to find a game or have a game where they're all playing okay. And like, I think that's their words. They just need to play fine. Play okay, do the job, and we'll win games. But unfortunately, where they're falling down is one person's having a shocker. And you can't have a shocker because you're only as good as your worst player when it comes to a team game.
All the time?
I mean, like, if you have if someone on your team has a blinder and just plays like Faker, then maybe you can get them over the line. But, you know, in these instances, it just feels like they're getting like 95% of the way done. You know, it's loading 95%, and then the 5% just error 404, something happens. And it's just not there. And generally speaking, it comes down to like their mid game to late game team fight execution. Like they build these comps around Frost, and then often in a mid game team fight, he's off team fighting on the side, literally 1v1 or 1v2, and he's got all of their gold. So it's honestly just sorting out those little nuts and bolts.
Well, nuts and bolts is something that Skimmy knows very well. He's certainly played Ratchet and Clank a few times before.
Yeah, sure,
now, let's have a quick chat about Legacy, because Legacy is the other team in this conversation. And Legacy also have a bit of a faker on their team. Fake Curzio occasionally, int Curzio the other half of the games. But so far, we've enjoyed what we've seen from them. Again, though, Legacy just getting... It's like they get really close to the win and usually trip over, except we saw a bit of a different Legacy last week, Skip.
We did, yeah. The perfect 2-0 for them, right? A huge turnaround from weeks 1 and 2. As much as you talk about Fake Cursio, we've got the Cockroach Dancer in the top lane there for Wintro, who's been playing really consistently as well. So I think for them, they've been identifying what their strengths are and not afraid to take them. I mean, for me, you look at Sybil, we always talk about how he loves to play these hard engaged early champions. He's a guy that doesn't want to settle for split pushing, doesn't want to wait around for macro decisions. He just wants to fight. And sometimes it looks a little bit haphazard. You're wondering what on earth is going on. But it's the major reason why they generate these huge leads post 15 minutes. What we've always been critical of is how they're able to find moments like this around Barons, around 20 minutes onwards, to make sure that they can actually close out the games, because that's where they seem to get lost, take fights that really they shouldn't be taking with the leads that they have. So I think for them, a word that is going to be thrown out between both teams of Mammoth and Legacy, it is the case of consistency, and who is the collective five can rise up.
Well, someone that loves rising up and has been doing a stellar job. Well, not last week, she wasn't here, but let's bring Natty in and have a quick chat. Where you been, Nat? You disappeared last week.
I know, I just had some prior engagements, so unfortunately Juves, or maybe not so unfortunately. I mean, Juves did a pretty great job. I watched the VOD back on the Wednesday LCO, and I was like, damn, Juves. And I literally have a whole page of notes here of just everything Juves did amazingly that I want to try and replicate too. So
That's a good save, because she was going to be like, unfortunately, Juves had to do the interviews.
Yeah, I maybe not yet. You know what? We're just going to forget I even said that word. But no, it was great. Absolutely loved it.
It's your job.
Well, fortunately, Nat, you have two players down on the sidelines who you want to have a quick chat to, right?
I do. I'm going to be joined by Nectar and Incursio. And I want to straight up talk to you, Incursio. You know, I didn't get to talk to you, or no one did really, after your win over Peace. So I want to know how much that one meant to you personally, but also how much momentum and what sort of like confidence it's bringing down to Legacy right now.
I reckon that gave us a lot of big confidence boosts, and yeah, it was pretty high beating Peace, especially in the way we did in that last team fight. I don't think any of us expected to go in there, but it's pretty sick to end the game that way, so yeah.
We are coming, you know, this is going to be your final game before we close out the round 1 of Split 2. So has Legacy and like the performance you guys have put on absolutely exceeded your expectations? Or is this what you guys expected and you've just really hit the nail on the head of what you wanted to bring this split?
I think it's definitely what we've been expecting, or what we have been trying to accomplish after a pretty rough like start in the split. So I'm pretty happy with how things are going so far.
And Nectar, over on Mammoth, unfortunately you guys are still looking for that first win, but how are you feeling about your performance and the team as a whole? Because you guys are looking very strong.
Yeah, I definitely had a really rough week for the first one. I think I was definitely the most underperforming player, but I think I'm definitely stepping up. I stepped up my game last week, and I'm ready to bring more today, so yeah.
What do you think has been your biggest accomplishment so far in this split, or how far have you come?
I mean, it's going to be that Peace game round. That one was really close, so yeah, that was our closest win.
It definitely was. And coming into this matchup, how has practice been looking for Mammoth?
Like Juice said before, we're definitely trying to fix those small problems. We've definitely been focusing a lot on that. So hopefully we can show that today.
And the last question, Incursio, I want to know, you know, practice for you guys as well. After the Peace win, is it really hard to not get ahead of yourselves and maybe just think you're a little bit better than what you are? Or is it easy to underestimate your opponents at all?
No, I definitely think our heads are still in the game, and we're not overestimating or underestimating anyone. Just playing it the same way we are going to every time.
Well, I look forward to this matchup. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. So some humble fellas there. No one really throwing out any fighting words today. So just ready to go into the matchup. Maybe Mammoth will get their first W, or Legacy can continue their little streak and maybe, you know, hover around the middle of the leaderboard, or at least walk their way up there. I guess still, so no one's undefeated. I guess that's the main thing that we got going for us at the moment. Now, before we jump into the predictions, of course, I'm going to be going with Twitch chat because I love you guys. I hope you love me too. Anyone going for anything spicy in this matchup? Anyone put their hands up and said Mammoth? They've got a good enough chance to get the dub.
I don't think picking Mammoth is a spicy pick at all. I think this game is very close to a 50-50. Just because...
But you went with Legacy. Even
Yeah, I
though,
did. I mean, of course. Yeah. Okay.
The dramatic pause,
Yeah.
eh?
I mean, I'm in the business of hyping games up, okay?
Yep.
But I genuinely do believe Mammoth have a very big shot in this game because I don't think Wade's going to have the performance he had last week in this game. And I do think across the board it is relatively even. So,
Okay.
yeah, but Legacy for me, just edge it.
And Nat will jump over to the other three. Sorry, Skimmy skipped you, but that's all right. You can
mate.
talk afterwards.
That happens.
You going Legacy as well? Everyone's going Legacy.
Yeah, I ended up going Legacy. It was, I guess it's really hard to overlook the win that they had on Peace. But not only that, if you look at their losses, they're not really stomps. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they've come into a game and their opponent has just absolutely rolled over them. They've definitely put up a fight. And what Juves just said, really reiterating that point, is that Mammoth does look good, but normally it's one player looks really good and then the next game it's the other player that looks really good. So there is a chance for them to all look amazingly today and take off that game from Legacy, but you just can't ignore that Peace win. It was really looking good for them, and I guess maybe if they slip up and they do underestimate Mammoth, maybe that's the only space in which. But yeah, that's why I've gone for Legacy. They just look really great.
Okay, and Skimmy, look, I'd ask for your opinion, but I kind of don't care. So
Cool,
before we jump into Champ
cool,
Select, do we think we're going to see anything crazy here on patch 11.13? Any new champs that we haven't seen yet in the LCO, DoorDash LCO?
I just want to see Goodo play the most Chad pick ever. I just wanted to see. I just wanted to play something really out of the box, just something crazy, and say, look, sure, as a collective for Mammoth, we're maybe not always gelling and playing to our full potential, but I've definitely made a name for myself ever since joining the LCO, and there've been plenty of times where, sure, you give the hype to Frost, but there've been games where I'm just outperforming players, and these are top tier caliber players, right? Like Babbitt, for instance, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, who's this new face? And he's definitely been a big momentum swing of their own to get into a strong position for the first 15 minutes.
Beautiful, beautiful. What about you, Jubes? Any curveballs going to be thrown in the champ select, do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think maybe a curveball in the draft, but if Legacy do win, I don't know if we're going to have to get Winterer off the roof this time, because it was on the wall before. But maybe we'll have to get him off the roof.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, I'll organise a ladder while we're off the cameras here. But look, it's prime time for dinner. 6 p.m. Exclamation DoorDash in chat. Get yourself some succulent feeds, and hopefully we can see a bit of feeding going on, or maybe not, in the draft. It's time for draft, ladies and gentlemen. See you after the game.
Well, let's kick it off with the very first game of the Super Week. It's week 4, day 1, and it is Mammoth still searching for their first victory here, Juves, but it's Legacy that come back with a 2-0 week. No doubt they'll be feeling really happy about that one. They'll be looking to try and use all that knowledge and bring it here to continue on their way.
The one thing I wanted to touch, Skimmy, before even we start picking champions, was that Rumble is a champ that's been nerfed this patch, right? It was a W, I believe, cooldown increase at level 1, which makes it harder to overheat. And so then, therefore, your first clear is slower. You take more damage because you no longer start with W. I think you start with the Q now. I'll have to double check. But I don't think we'll be seeing a lot of priority on the Rumble anymore. Like, that probably does just maybe edge Rumble out of meta, depending on what picks are available. Like, if everything's banned, then Rumble obviously, moves up the rank in terms of priority. But we're seeing already very early on here, Mammoth locking in the Xin Zhao. Important to note too, Karma is still available, which Legacy, I think, are going to have to take away, just because you do not want to give away the Xin Zhao, the Karma. That is just the dirtiest combination on patch 11.13.
Yeah, it's way too strong. And if you actually look at the picks that we've had in the LCO so far, between patches 11.11 to the last patch of 12, Karma is one of the only champions that has remained at 100% presence. That means they've either been picked or banned every single game. So no surprises here. It's a new patch, but the same outcome.
Yeah, but I really like what Legacy have done here. They've taken the Karma because they know it's a denial, but also a 3-way flex. Now, all of a sudden, you've paired that with the Varus. You have a winning bot lane if you decide to put Karma bot. So now, with counter pick, Legacy have counter pick, right? They have the last pick. So now Mammoth need to decide, do they opt in for a hard engage support like they have? Now Karma can be flexed either top or mid lane, and you can pick a counter to Nautilus. Now, there's no like hard counter pick, if you will, but you can opt in for something like the Braum, which is extremely good into a Xin Zhao pick this early, right? So you start to pick this composition around Varus, whatever Incursio wants to pick, and you have so much engage, well, not engage, but so much disengage, and it's going to make Braum in general makes melee range champs miserable, and they have 3 of them already in the first 3.
They certainly do, and obviously with a lot of auto-attacking champions that Legacy can then pick up on their side, makes it so easy to apply that slow and that stun afterwards too, right? Worth noting, if we actually date our mind back to the initial week here in the LCO for Split 2, Legacy did actually run the spot lane of the Karma and the Varus, but as you've mentioned, it could definitely be flexed around. I wouldn't think it would be flexed towards Incursio. We know that he loves to play the pop-off carry champions, but we know that Winterer is very keen to play the Enchanters. He's already played the Lulu twice. As he there does pop up on your screen. There's Lucian to come on through, so another champion that once again can flex between multiple different lanes, but you'd imagine, as it stands, that's probably looking at mid and top.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the beauty about what Legacy have so far, right? It is literally flexes all across the board. I think the only safe thing we can say with that composition is that Varus is bot lane.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be a Varus mid lane. But it could be Lucian top. It could be Lucian mid, it could be Karma mid, could be Karma top. So you still have that two-way flex, and you start to create a problem for Mammoth now because you know, they're going into their top lane pick as to thinking, well, what am I against? Now, Lucian probably fares, well, not probably, Lucian fares very well into the Sylas. So I do, you know, imagine Incursio is going to pick that one up. Probably suits his playstyle too, right? You know, the 1v1 aggressive type mid lane champ. But again, question marks around Incursio's champion pool. Can he pilot it? Can he pilot Lucian like he pilots the rest of his champions?
It's a good question. We know that he loves to play the AD Assassin's Wing given a chance.
There's
the Braum and there's the Locket. It makes sense, obviously, with what Mammoth have so far. But what is worth noting is whilst the Rumble is still up and available and both teams have played a whole bunch of it, not really a pick I'd fancy going into a Xin Zhao. We had to wonder what Sybil will play because the Xin Zhao is what he's played. The Rumble, the Zac has been banned away, and the Sejuani too that we've seen him historically play. Outside of that, it's been an Elise. So you start to wonder, is it going to be a tank pickup, the likes of Trundle that we're starting to see elsewhere globally?
I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Sybil just pick the Rek'Sai up. I don't think Rek'Sai is a very good champion, like in terms of numbers, in terms of how it you know, I guess functions in most game states. Sure. However, your composition, it has so much scaling, right? You got Braum, you got Karma, you got double 80 carry. You don't really need anything else, but what you do need is just a little bit of early pressure to stop Xin Zhao from snowballing this game out of control. And if you're able to match that, you know, to match the 2v2, or even just get the leads elsewhere on the map, then potentially they're in for a very, very good time with this draft Legacy. And Mammoth definitely encounter some problems if they aren't able to find those windows of opportunity or those advantages. And at least, yeah. Well, I mean, that's AP Rek'Sai, like AP Rek'Sai.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just farms and ganks, and then you fall off, right? You don't fall off completely, don't get me wrong, but, you know, I in hindsight, I really like this Elise pick because now you kind of break up the damage profile between yourself and Incursio, or Sybil and Incursio.
Yeah, and it doesn't steer too much away from what he's shown us in this split. So whilst those bans were targeted to him, at least in the second half of that draft, he's going to be still quite content with that one. And going to be a very elusive champion, whilst it obviously offers you the CC to make the double tap nature of the Lucian and mid quite worthwhile. The Braum, for me, the pick from Legacy side, just seems to find more and more value because there is so many melee bruisers looking to try and protect this Tristana, which is no doubt looking to try and scale efficiently into the late game. Now, we know that Frost has the ability to perform like that. But if Emil can find the application, there is definitely an influx of champion on Legacy, can apply the stun, control, and dictate the tempo of that fight.
I mean, at this point, ML's probably going to have to take a couple of attack speed runes, maybe a Halo Blades, because they're going to have to auto-attack 4 people when they're diving onto his backline. Obviously, that was a joke before I get flamed for suggesting Halo Blades.
Such a deadpan joke, Juice.
But, yeah, it's a dad joke. But I'm not dad. Anyway, no, but, you know, Mammoth's comp does have a window of opportunity, right? And what I mean by that is, like, their scaling is really good as well, but they can also, you know, fall victim to not being ahead enough so that when it comes to the groups, when it comes to the 5-man Karma Shields, when it comes to, you know, the situation where it's a group around the objective, then they may not just have a way in, because Mundo doesn't get you into a team fight. Xin Zhao can definitely start it, but in terms of being the first one in, and Xin Zhao is not going to have a lot of survivability, not going to be the person that's, you know, the last man standing, especially because most Zins that we see actually go Gore Drinker into Essence Reaver, so it's not the tankiest route. And then, like, you know, there's a little bit of follow-up across the board, but again, it can just be completely denied by the side of Legacy. So I do feel like, if, you know, if I had to hedge my bets on which draft I'd prefer to play, it's this Legacy one for sure.
Yeah.
However, you know, the Xin Zhao is always a scary prospect.
Certainly is, and a very much all-in full commit composition, right? There is no Machado to back these guys up to give them attack speed shields or bonus HP. Once they're in, they are in. And in terms of ranged advantages, Zinzao first comes to mind. Then it'll be the Nautilus. And if the fight is looking to be a winning one, then the rocket jump resets from the Tristana are going to prove to be invaluable. Game number 1 is here, and as we get ourselves into it, we will get a chance to check in with the coach of Mammoth in Jalal.
Hi guys.
Hey mates, first of all, you know, Super Week is here, obviously an exciting time for most teams. You've come so close to getting your first victory, so how's the week off and the prep coming in today been?
We got a lot of scrims in, so I'm feeling good about this game.
Beautiful. Well, tell me a little bit about this draft, right? A lot of eggs into the basket of making sure that Frost can pop off. We've sort of hung that narrative for a few games now of knowing that he is a pop-off player. Was that a clear direction? You give him the resources?
Yep, definitely, especially with the early not pick and getting some engagement early. Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. And, you know, what would a win here today mean, right? You know, still searching for that first one. There was a single victory last split. Would it feel sweeter to try and derail the hype train that Legacy have put together?
Yeah, definitely, and it'll bring our morale up a lot. So I feel like if we win here, it'll be really good for us.
And we heard Nectar in his interview mentioning that looking to try and sharpen up individual areas and find the full 5-man piece of the puzzle. How easy is that to try and, you know, make that happen during a draft?
Yeah. I think drafting is a lot more difficult than what people think. So yeah, I think overall there's limitations on what we can do and can't do. So finding a good draft is definitely difficult.
Beautiful. Well, let's see how it plays out here today, mate. I wish you guys the best of luck and talk soon.
Thank you.
Right, Juves, well, let's crack on with this game. Nice swift interview to get the thoughts and the feelings of the Mammoth camp.
Yeah, it was a nice interview, and it's actually good to hear that they're getting a lot of practice in, right? A lot of the time it can you know, be a little bit of a deterrent, seeing the results not go your way this early into the season. However, they've been, I guess, lucky enough, or you know, they've had the work ethic to put in the work. They've been close so many times, right? So it's not the time to get disheartened. It's the time to actually work harder and try and turn this ship around.
Certainly is, and we'll get to see how they can find that, right? We've put a bit of praise towards Goodo, another player that loves to play for these early advantages. He's going to look to go for his red buff here, but here comes Sybil. He's looking for a flanking angle right now, and he hasn't been revealed just yet.
They both have smite. And this is why the Lucian Elise is decent for now. And I say for now because the Elise at least quickly falls off a cliff if nothing gets done. But you generate priority mid lane because this matchup is just very hard for Wei to play. If you can already see the CSD being quite in favor of Incursio. Now Wei has the teleport, but I think he's definitely mismanaged his mana, right? Like he's he has TP, so he can cheat a recall. And you know,
so close there.
Fun fact, and hold that thought.
Hold that thought indeed, absolutely. Winter are now going to be the one in top lane. Nectar! Oh no. Juves, is there any worse feeling than committing the flash but still dying?
Yeah, I mean, is there any worse feeling than ganking what is going to be the weak side Karma and having it be unsuccessful? So not only do you lose top side, you lose your bot side camps, you lose your teleport mid lane, and you're just losing across the board now. So that's just really well played from Winter, all right? Have to give him credit. He definitely outplayed the dive, but maybe just that pressure that Mammoth feel to make something happen early.
Certainly is. We know what it means when an Enchanter goes into the top lane, hits those 2 items, then pretty much groups up with the team. Doesn't really need much more. You know, those resources can go elsewhere. Obviously 2 hard carries in the Lucian, as well as that Varus. But to get the killing blow to start things off with and get the first blood, yeah, it really hurts here for the Mundo that was looking to try and be that beefcake later on.
Yeah, and look how hard this bot lane is as well, right? Important to note that Styled has opted in for, again, hold the thought.
Here we go. Frost is actually going to be jumped upon right now. He's already hit the cleanse. His exhaust went out from Emelg, and the first gank here from Legacy towards the bot side proves to be enough to zone them away from this turret. That's going to be a bit of a wave crashing on through, and another one soon to follow. Rotation coming down here as Wei needs to make something happen of his own accord, but it looks like Incursio is following. Might have a bit of a 4v4 take place here with Sybil floating around, then flashing, then cocooning, and then just locking him in place. And Mel gets the killing blow. Now they're going to try and chase onto Goodo as well. And this is Legacy to a T.
Yeah, and so it's just what happens when you have pressure in the mid lane, like the Lucian, like the Silas, and you're able to just generate this pressure, control one side of the map, and there's just really nothing Mammoth can do. The play to make, I guess, would be Frost and Shinky playing safe bot side, not doing anything, and letting Wei collect wave second, and then they can look to make a play. But it's kind of, they're trying to do the best of both worlds. They're trying to meet them on the rotation, and Mammoth are just a step behind and a step too late.
First Dragon is going to go their way. 6 minutes into this one, nice and early. And it's the best case scenario for your team that loves to play aggressive like this because you build towards the bigger narrative, the bigger talking point of extra power to be built up around and denied away from this hyper carry, protect the Tristana composition that Tristana or that Mammoth have put together here. Really early soul point for them to play around. Might just see the game come to a bit of a smaller tempo and pace as a result of waiting for a lot of these summoners to come back and up.
So it's just going to be quite of a bit of a slow game now, right? There's nothing for Legacy to do. If anything, it could turn into maybe a lane kingdom in the mid lane, right? Like we talked about Wei having a rough start to the early game, and potentially we're on track for what is going to be another rough game for Wei.
Yeah, he's still trying to find his footing in this one, isn't he? He's one that we praised a lot in the OCS, coming into this one, especially in split number 2, he's not been able to find the same level of success and has been a bit of a punching bag for other mid laners in the region. Okay, so he's certainly finding success as it stands right now. Ranged into melee matchup, always a fun time for them. As Winter tries to be a bit of a rat in the top lane there and sneak away and steal the blue buff from Goodo.
And you know, a sign of a rough game to me is when the Enchanter top lane is just even CS. Like generally speaking, they graciously lose lane, right? Obviously Mundo probably not the hardest matchup, but Goodo might be in trouble here. He has no flash.
Might be the Tether is going to connect. He's still in a vision right now, so that means the rest of the team can just jump on through. The culling is there, but Winter steals it again. The Enchanter, the support, absolutely fed.
Yeah, he is fed, and he's going to have an early item. And sometimes when you're fed as an Enchanter, you fall in love with the idea that you're ahead, you're going to try solo kill your lane. Keep in mind that he's still a Mundo. Nectar is still going to be A-OK. So I do believe Legacy still need to play the map. They still need to have an idea of what their composition does, right? Because you know where they function best, it's 5 people in a lane. They set up Saging, or Incursio sits in a side. And it's 2 different damage profiles, right? Like Karma, if you're going to build for Karma and sitting in the side lane with the Karma, you're not going to have the armor to deal with Lucian. So Legacy's composition has a good damage spread. Now it's just if it comes down to execution, because they've got themselves the lead.
Certainly does, but you would definitely hope for that goal to have gone elsewhere to buff up the true hyper carries. As Nectar no doubt going to be quite content, just chilling in that side lane and just waiting for his moment to shine. Now we're going to redeploy back onto this map, and this time going to go for the second objective of this game. The first Herald, uncontested as it stands right now. There is a bit of vision from a defeated Scuttle. That goes to control ward, but I don't think Sybil's going to want to commit to this one despite it being so low. No smite necessary, but he's now going to blast Cone over. Now going to look for the fight to try and take place. There's the Tether, there's the slow. Goodo, same place, same moment, and same outcome as he falls on down.
Yeah, and it's just so disjointed. It's like Mammoth are just second to the punch. They're walking in second. They don't have minion waves in their favor. They're rotating because they kind of understand what's happening and where they need to be. But at least their champions, I guess the drafts even, haven't allowed them. And I'll hold the thought because it looks like a dive coming on through.
Does. There's going to be the hook onto Sybil right now. Soaks up 2, then jumps into the air. Repel is successful. Frost Rocket jumps in, looks for the all-in, and he will take out Sybil in the process. That's a good kill, it's a good trade, and maybe they'll find some more. The Bruiser power, if they get on top of a target, they will stick and they will delete. Yeah,
okay. And now that's a decent trade, right? If you're Mammoth, you've got to be happy with that. You know, that's a 3 for 1, or I guess a 3 for 2 if we're talking extended, because Goodo did fall down, and maybe Styled falls here too.
Certainly does. Forcing out another flash. These cooldowns are being burnt so frequently. As Goodo redeploys back to the mid lane once again. Going to shove that out. Might look for an early Herald summon and get themselves ready for the second dragon. But this fight, it all starts top lane.
Yeah, so Mammoth played this extremely well. The Nautilus hook goes down early, causes Sybil to take tower aggro. It has to burn the repel. Incursio starts tanking the turret, and just Mammoth are there, ready to fight, ready to scrap. And you can tell Mammoth are ready to fight this game when you look at the CSD. They're down 25 CS in mid lane. They're down about 30 CS in the 80 carry position. It's just because they've been rotating at the expense of minion waves. And they're definitely down for the fight. It's just been less than favorable at times.
Despite being down at CS, though, does not seem to mind. It is the pain and punishment if you are playing a melee into a ranged matchup. Still manages to commit, and there's obviously a lot of sustain built into his kit as the Silas, so if he can find those chains, if he can get the range engaged, he can definitely pack a punch. Another kill picked up here for Winterer. He's got himself some healing cut as his first item as a rush. So if he is going to start to flirt with that idea that you mentioned before, Juves, about finding some solo kills, maybe just a fraction easier now into the Mundo.
Just a little bit, and what's going to happen here?
Well, it's a numbers mismatch first of all. The depth charge goes out, Start in trouble, no flash because he burned it in mid lane before. He just turns around and piercing arrows you, he doesn't care. And now it's going to force out a double TP. Top laners become bot laners, but then they'll both disengage.
And it's a 1-for-1, and Sybil is just assessing his options here. Might be a dive onto the Nautilus still available. Can they get the wave in time? Does he cancel the base? Obviously, New Mundo is spell immune.
Yeah, he's using his passive to good effect right now. Juggling with the aggro. There's the hook to start things off as he actually burns that stopwatch. A turret shot onto a milk. Zones him away. The culling goes out again. Looking to try and take down Shinky. There's a wave protecting him. And a Mundo in front of him. Buying time. Sybil might die, but another stopwatch and another chance to reset. His wave finally rocks up. He steals the culling and does it himself.
This might be a way triple Q angle. Let's see what he does here.
Certainly could be. Certainly could be. Oh, so close, but still so far.
And a little bit scrappy, Skimmy. I'll be honest with you, I was expecting a little bit of a cleaner game coming out of Legacy, particularly with the leads that they were able to generate in the early game. And what it's been is just turret plate trades across the board and botched dives. Now, in terms of scaling, in terms of Legacy's composition with the Karma empowering the 5-man, compare that with the Braum. They fare okay in the late game, but you have to remember they still have the Mundo, the Silas, the Tristana, and they're quite scary when it comes to the late game in their own right, particularly because, well, who's matching Mundo? Like, yeah, Lucian will win the side in terms of the 1v1 in isolation, but that means Incursio's got the Ignite. So if you ever, force him to meet you bot side of the map, you can teleport to the Baron and create a 4v5.
I mean, I'm sure if Mammoth are hitting the tab check right now, they're thinking, well, we're chilling, no major concern at all. I don't think Legacy have built up a big enough lead for us to panic just yet. We've got late game, as you mentioned. The Mundo's going to be massive. The Tristana even better. And if we do group up, how are they going to answer those side lanes? It's a big question.
I mean, it could be worse for sure. You're right. If you're a Mammoth fan, it could be worse, considering how that early game started. Mammoth will be just okay trading minion waves right up until Frost gets his first mythic. He's been such a key part of that team, doing I think 28% or close to 30% of his team's damage share. So you got to play around those players sometimes. But there's one person who's kind of got himself back into the game. It's Wei. 2 1-on-1 on the Silas now. He's maintained a respectable CSD. What was looking like it was probably going to be a bit of a blowout in the CS department. He's managed to pull it back and remain within touching distance. And he's about to pick up a wave bot side too. Yeah, and that's important. As he'll need to be a big talking point later into this game to empower and buff up and be the sort of engage brother alongside the Xin Zhao to try and delete somebody straight away. We did see a bit of a gold check beforehand, and whilst it is Winter still with the most gold in the game, it was Incursio and Style not too far behind. So as a whole, they are still finding the gold and putting it in all the right places. So it's not as easy as just saying remove the Karma or even just ignore them. We are still stronger. The one thing I wanted to touch on too was sometimes you see Halo Blades Varus and you see Lethal Tempo, but they still go lethality route. And every time I talk about something, this happens. Yeah, a fight happens. The Cocoon will not land, but the smite goes out to lock him in place. Chilling smite at just that. It means it's Incursio has the uptime and the chance to try and take him out. And still away that ultimate as Wei becomes the least, but gets squashed like a spider and will not be able to participate anymore. Yeah, Gudo's not having a good game, is he? He's having a bit of a rough time. And this is just Sybil. This is what Sybil does so well. On this Elise, he hovers side lanes and he finds himself these spots where you just don't expect him to be, right? You know, Goodo's like, okay, this is a free gank, gonna shut down Incursio in the side lane, and Sybil's just there waiting because he's read the map so well. And there's a reason why even when Elise is not meta, teams ban this champion away from him. You know, I think you won't find many people saying, yeah, Elise needs a ban, or Elise needs... If anything, you know, you'll find them saying Elise needs a buff, but Sybil's Elise probably doesn't need one.
No, he knows what he's good at, and he certainly does excel at it. And he's basically saying to Goodo, well, if you think you can try and match him in the early game, think again, because it's not working in your favor. What is working in Mammoth's favor, though, is the fact that they do have the side lane pressure. They have the scaling, they have the tankiness, they have the durability to say that if Winter goes topside, he really wishes he wasn't.
Yeah, and now look at item 1 on Winter, by the way. Item 1 on Winter is just... He's just
what does that do?
Well, he's just identified that there's 3 healing champions on the side of Mammoth when you consider the Mundo, the Xin Zhao, and the Silas. So he's opted in for the Purifier, which means that you know, whenever he shields someone, when they auto attack, they apply anti-heals. But it's not like a first item, I guess, that you're used to seeing on a solo lane Karma. You know, usually it's like the Shirelias or whatever, you know, whatever they're feeling that game. But it just goes to show, and he's picked up the Shirelias now anyway.
There it is, yeah. And that's what we expected to see coming out of him. But yeah, my point being, it's like you really wish you weren't stuck in that side lane because you want to be with the team, especially with the lead that you have. Yeah. Say, look, we can force fights. We can just hit that go button. We can just hit those shields. And anybody that comes our way, they won't have to sustain. They won't have the ability to try and find resets and, you know, prolong the fight for those rotates with TPs and so on.
But that's the problem that most teams fall in, you know, into the category of happening when you pick Karma or like the solo lanes being the enchanters. You know, they fall in with the idea that they need to be the one to match. Whereas like you're much better having Incursio lane against Nectar with Mercury Treads, Divine Sundara, because A, Incursio should win, particularly with the Ignite coming up shortly. And then you also have the Karma group. Like you don't need 10 CS per minute on Winter on Karma.
No.
Like, he doesn't need to be on the side. And he doesn't even need to have an EXP lead because you do this. Exactly what's happening now.
Yeah, the Empowered Shield followed up by Australia. So much movement speed just to pounce and collapse on somebody in particular. There's the flank from Sybil, and there is the assassination attempt onto Tristana. Frost is gone, but not before Goodo gets a trade. A bit of revenge onto his jungling counterpart. Incursio takes up another turret shot and is forced to flash away as Mundo jumps on his head and receives a hook from the dredge line. 2 kills and a shutdown. Goodo's back in the game.
Yeah, Goodo is back in the game, but, you know, has the Xin Zhao ship sailed? He doesn't have any empowerment, right? It is just the Xin Zhao. The person I would be keeping my eye on is like Nectar. How big can he get? How big can this Mundo get? Does he get to a point where he's unkillable? You know, right now he's killable because he's only got damage, but this is where Legacy's comp shines. You know, maybe they overreach, maybe they went a little bit too deep. Again, it's not your front to back that you would like. With a Braum and a Karma, it is a little bit of a skirmish that probably suits Mammoth's composition a little bit more, particularly when you're turret diving as well. Incursio going way too deep there. A little bit of an Incursio moment, if you don't mind. And it is an even trade. So, again, you know, Mammoth holding onto a lifeline. It is only 3k, but we see how dangerous this Legacy composition can be. You know, you can't be anywhere in the mid lane because you are just going to get ran down with the Shirelias, with the Empowered Shields. Important to note for the guys that missed the, or the people that missed the pre-match segment, this is the Shirelia's nerf, right? It is only 30% move speed as opposed to 60%.
Yeah, it's the patch where mobility got nerfed, but still a champion that has the kit and has the items that can still make it so strong. Any person could have position, any vision that Legacy can find of where you're at, you're very easy picking, even with flash available.
I like this play though. Mammoth picking up gold in the side lane. Maybe they get another turret here. And again, Smith, if you want to talk about what the turret changes are.
Yeah, we're in a turret now. 250 gold for them. So a lot more gold. And that means the second Herald, which has been picked up, it makes things just a little bit sweeter.
Look at that.
Look at the buff up. Look at the boost. And Juves, I suppose we continue. It's been 10 minutes since we last spoke about it, but the gold lead is still very close in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. And well, what's important is that Mammoth have found ways to find the turrets, right? It's not like they're, you know, it's very easy to fall into the trap of playing from behind and playing scared, you know, like not really taking an advantage on the other side of the map. You know, but Goodo, even though he's had kind of a rough start to the game, He's able to identify that, pick up turrets on both sides, and if you look at kind of map state now, it's dead even. Like it's turret to take in the mid lane, turret to take top lane, and if you're Mammoth, it almost just comes down to execution.
I suppose the saving grace for Legacy is their mid-tier one still is topped up and healthy, and that's always what you're wrestling for in terms of control to get this Dragon. That has been the trade-off right between both teams. Legacy going for a very early soul point, whereas Mammoth has been playing for the Rift Heralds to, you know, stagger time, wait it out, and then find their moment to shine. They need some break points before they can do that. 2-item spike for the likes of Tristana would be fantastic, but the soul point is up and available. It's going to be an infernal soul like that, and that's in 30 seconds.
The 30-second soul point, that's rough. And it's almost just not enough in terms of the itemization that's coming through from Mammoth. You know, you don't have 2 items on the... Ooh, okay. I mean, they're throwing skill shots, though. They still want the fight. And I guess this is why Mammoth is such an exciting team to watch.
Nobody from Mammoth has a flash just yet, but a few have stopwatches. There goes the chains. Locks in place Shinky, who just falls on down nice and quickly. Got to spin to win. Look to make himself as topped up and healthy as he can be. Winterer somehow survives a cat with 9 lives. Now he can play big defense and just pocket his team with some shields from afar. There's some fruit. Get your 5 a day. But now that is a Dragon that they need to fight for. It's going to be no supports participating in this one. It's a full 4v4. They might just make this a 50-50 coin flip.
What's hilarious is Legacy's composition has so much poke, but then Mundo... Oh, and that's Soul. And that's just like that. They flipped the Soul, and Sybil's the one that got that with their Elise execute into Smite. So, you know, 2-level lead as well. Don't mind if you do, but... On the way pings at this Baron buff, so Legacy are going to be just V-line straight there. With this Infernal Soul, though, you'd have to say now, Skimmy, this is looking like a very uphill task regardless of gold deficit.
Certainly is. Double AD carry with that power behind him, always a talking point which cannot be forgotten about. You talk about the poke, well, the Infernal Soul's obviously going to add to that even more. And it's going to make it so much harder now for Mammoth to find those engage angles, because whilst they are strong if they can get on top of you, they need the vision, they need the ideas. They can't find that, they will just lose a straight up head-to-head.
And watch how quickly this Baron goes down as well now. You know, it's almost like you don't even have to set up correctly. You can just burn this Baron down so quickly, and they're probably going to start it. They actually genuinely would feel confident enough to start this, particularly with the comp that they've drafted too. Because if they do want to turn with the Varus ultimate, Winter can just empowered shield all 5 and run down the member. So it is just going to be such a tough objective for Mammoth to contest and face check.
Mammoth do have double TPs though between mid and top lane. It's whether or not they can get any deep vision to catch Legacy off guard, because that's what you're hoping for right now. You have to say, as you mentioned, if Legacy can get onto that Baron, they could probably not have to worry about the idea of a Baron dance. They could just probably full-on commit and it just burns in a moment.
Yeah, 100%. And what's scary for me is that Styled is still on 0 kills. Styled is still at 0 kills, and he's playing with a Karma composition. You have to feel so bad for this guy that if he ever does just pick up a couple kills, it is almost going to be too tough of a hill to climb. And I'm being like an optimistic Mammoth fan here.
Yep, he's just a passenger on the ride right now.
Brom's got 2.
You can't squish a cockroach is what we've learnt. And Winter certainly is popping off in this game. He's getting everything he needs to excel his team into a winning position. There's the shield once again. The vision goes down. Bit of a mid-A-ram once more. Looking for that initial pick target on towards Sybil. He goes golden. Now Nectar is going to be the recipient of this culling. Now being cursed with just removing 2 big tanks from the flank. Who cares about it? He burns the flash, but it finds success. And he'll find another one as the jungler of Mammoth dies as well. Head-to-head they battle, and Legacy will win that every day.
Yeah, and it's just a role-played front-to-back team fight. You know, we talked about I guess the problems Legacy ran into earlier with their composition, you know, playing in the skirmish, flanking from different sides. This one was just your traditional front to back, and it's at a point where Shinky is not really tanky enough, nor is Nectar to face check, particularly with the Infernal Soul. And we saw the work Winter did in that team fight, and it sounds funny to say, right, like the work Karma did. But just look how he kept everyone topped up, he kept everyone alive, the shield's coming on through, he's got Styled here, but then again, it is just 5 members strong, and not much Mammoth's comps can do. They're just melting like flies. You know, Wei can't even find an access into that team fight. They didn't lose any members.
Styled is literally an ulti-bot, it would seem at this stage, isn't he? He chucks out the Chance of Corruption, staggers the initiation that Mammoth are putting their way, and then the Brom passive comes in to seal the deal. Now, this is a little bit too much. Sybil, he's already burnt that stopwatch, mind you, so going to be very susceptible to dying here. The repel goes out, but now he's got his Zonias, and he can flash and receive a Karma Shield to disengage away. The members, the Bruiser Boys of Mammoth, flashing to commit, but they can't find the resets, they can't find the kills. It's going to be a flawless ace for Legacy.
That was the team fight of Karma. At the end there, the 5-man empowered shields, keeping everyone topped up, keeping Sybil alive, and Incursia's having a field day. There's nothing more fun than playing a position which is valued, right? Like, you think about it, mid lane, 80 carry, and having an Enchanter support. You know, watch this little team fight here as we get the replay. It's honestly a nice play from Mammoth. It's a play that they have to make because they can't defend the Baron. So they set up the cheese. Sybil just stalls too much time on this Elise with the Zonias, and then the Karma Shield's coming on through. Nice little outplay there, and then watch here. Empowered 5-man empowered Karma Shield. And it's just over. It's just quadruple for Incursia, for fake Cursia.
Certainly is. Look at the value he got in that team fight alone, and having gone for the Gale Force, doesn't care about any percentile shred. He just wants mobility, the ability to run you down, run rampant with the passive, and yeah, just get those kills to hit those double digits. Now 12, 3, and 5.
He's having a good game. I definitely had a few question marks for him and his Lucian, right? You know, it's not, I guess, the champion that we would, you know, put Incursia's name with or in the same sentence as. You know, he's made his name more on the assassin-type champions. But I think he's had a pretty good game, had a very solid laning phase into way. And Incursia is showing us, I guess, what he's doing in solo queue or in his off time, diversifying his champion pool and becoming a threat, I guess.
Certainly is. Surreal's Grudge doing a lot of work right now in terms of locking you in place. If the culling does connect, then going to be very hard to try and disengage away from. And that just feels like the biggest difference from draft here. Is this the amount of CC built to try and deal with what Mammoth have? And they're trying to find these flanking angles. Waze is going to try and go in for a 1v3 right now, but he burns the stopwatch, and there's nobody there to back him up, to cycle out, to try and change things around. 2 tanks go in, and 2 tanks fall on down, as easy as you like. The passive connects, Goodo dead, it's a triple kill. It might just be an Incursia montage, a dash, a Gale Force, and a chance to find that pentakill. Give us the pentakill, look for it on towards Frost. He doesn't have the flash, but he's receiving the shields.
Okay.
He needs one more, come on! Tank at the turret, and it's just gonna die to the turret.
I don't know what's more tragic, not getting your pentakill or dying to a turret, right? Like, Mammoth are just thinking, okay, we've got a kill here, but nope, dead to turret or no penta. I'm not sure, but either way, Legacy are going to close this one out, and I don't think Incursia is going to be too upset about that.
He won't be upset. The KDA has been ruined, but the win streak continues here for Legacy. 3 on the go as we enter Super Week.
3 on the go. And Legacy, the resurgence, you know, we talk about this org time and time again, and you can never really count them out. It's okay, Styled, you can smile, you won. You know, ML, Sybil, all-round good performance from this Legacy roster, right? You have to kind of, I guess, give them a lot of credit because they're really forming their identity. I think with these early game junglers, lots of pressure from Sybil, Winter having a bit of a champion Ocean, Incursia is starting to branch out into what works for him now as a player, and just a very solid bot lane in Mel. And Mel, you know, we've been talking about as one of our most improved players.
Yeah, certainly is. He's continuing to dazzle, and they've definitely found their feet when it matters so much, especially at that midpoint of the season. Mac, you know, you look at a game like that and you say Legacy, you know, there's something in the water here. They've definitely risen up to the occasion of, you know, now's our time to shine.
Yeah, they really just, you know, put all the pieces together. It looked very good for them, and it was a slow and steady approach. We did see some moments of glory there from Mammoth as well, where it looked like, oh, okay, we've got ourselves a game. We're going to be seeing them come back into this one, and then, you know, Legacy always seem to have an answer, turning fights around and just trading evenly sometimes, and that's at the worst of times as well. So, you know, Incursia having a bloody scorcher as well. So maybe we can see some more of him on Lucian in the future. But, you know, dying to a turret, that's always a good way to end the game, right?
I mean, if you're going for a penta, you can die to the turret. I think that's an acceptable trade. You know the trade offer? That trade offer meme?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I receive, execute to turret, you receive pentakill.
Yeah, but he didn't get the penta.
Yeah, no, it's just a meme, man.
It's just a meme, man.
What could have been? What could have been, Mac? What could have been?
Yeah, true. Well, I don't know. What is the trade-off for, you know, someone going golden, denying your penta, denying your life, and look, you got the W at the end of the day, so that works out. Legacy, certainly going to be happy with that. So we got a bit of fake Curzio, got a bit of int Curzio, so we mentioned both at the start of the game, and got to see it all, few and far between. Got to see Sybil on the Elise again as well, and you mentioned it during the cast there. I think just towards the end, he had 12 assists. Not sure what he ended on right towards the end, but it was just a huge diff today. Look at that, even the gold diff, it's like 14k. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Bit of a diffy in the jiffy.
Lucian, yeah, I mean, and Kursu nearly did as much as the entire team of Mammoth, right? Like, obviously, Mammoth did a little bit more, but that just sort of shows the dominance that he was able to find, right? From the laning phase, you kind of expect it, that the matchup's going to go that way, but in the rotations, his aggression, there was a few times, right, Jubes, where we're saying, okay, he's gone for a flash, or he's taken up the turret. Probably not an angle I'd take, but it's that confidence that he's willing to make those moves that allows him to get quadra kills and potential pentas like that too.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people talking about the champions that Mammoth drafted individually. But if you think about like the Silas, it's going to lose priority, and Zinzao kind of needs priority and at least wants priority. So it's kind of this chess match, and Legacy were just able to do with the mid 2v2 what they needed to secure that early lead, to enable Incursio to do this 30k DPS. So again, it came down to like, you know, some people maybe thought Mammoth's draft was better, some people thought Legacy's draft was better, but ultimately it came down to execution. And you know, priority doesn't mean anything unless you act upon it. And Legacy did. They put their pedal to the metal, and they were able to just dive and dive and dive and dive again.
Well, someone that is my high priority and best interviewer on the LCO is Nat. Let's bring Nat back in. Sorry, Jubes. You did a good job last
A
week.
shade towards Jubes, mate.
I'm getting flamed today.
Absolutely.
Well, there's only been 3 of us, and I had to put myself in the bin there too. So it's all right. I did it one time, remember, just one time. But look, Nat, who do you have down there for the winner's interview?
I pulled along Civil because I thought he played absolutely amazingly, and so I wanted to ask you some questions about that game. Congratulations on the win, but I want to start at the start with the draft. Were there any sort of curveballs for you guys, and how did it feel to get that Elise?
No, there was 0 curveballs. That was like a pretty standard draft, I think. I think we weren't expecting to get Karma or Lulu. Oh wait, we were expecting to get Lulu, so we had to do Karma instead. But I'm just, yeah, the Elise, I'm like, we had no plan to play Elise, but it kind of got to like last pick, and I was like, well, Rumble's up, and Rumble's pretty good, but it was just like a perfect Elise game, because we had like Lucian, it works really well with Lucian, works really well with like front to back, and yeah, we just, I don't know, it was just a pretty, I don't know, optimal Elise game, I'd say.
Yeah, you looked really great on it, and to know that, you know, you weren't even really gunning for it, it's just something that sort of happened to unfold, and you got lucky to play her, is even more kudos to you. I also saw in your interview with Juice, you guys have been talking about that you guys are prioritizing Dragon a lot more, and I want to know how much of an impact you think that's had on the improvement you guys have shown, and why it's come about. Like, why is it that focusing on Dragons has improved you guys so much?
Well, I think the fact that Dragon gives stats and is a useful win condition is kind of secondary to the fact that it's just something that we are all keeping our mind on. It's bringing us together. Like, normally you'd think it's the Nexus, but the Dragon is like a win condition that you build up throughout the game. So you can't just you can't spawn into the game and be like, guys, let's take Nexus. Like, you can't do that. It doesn't really work like that. You have to be like, you know, how are we going to win? And so Dragons are like a really good way to just keep everyone on the same page. And I don't know, it just makes it so obvious and clear like what the plan is, because even when you want to give a Dragon, you know, you're giving one. And then, yeah, it's just, I wouldn't say it's like the only way we know how to win, but it's definitely helping us like come together as a team.
Is that why there's also been an improvement in your team fight? Maybe the communication is a lot more open for you guys because you're communicating a lot about this Dragon, so it opens up pathways for team fighting as well?
I think it's more just, if anything, our comms, like, they were really shaky, and there was like way too many comms, and we'd be really all over the place. But now I think we're just more on the same page when it comes to what's happening in a fight, and when a fight breaks out, we're all just like, okay, like, how can I contribute? This fight needs to go our way. So there's just a lot less unnecessary comms, like clutter. Yeah.
It's working really well for you guys. I do have one last question, though, is we saw you doing a lot of pressure in that early game. Is that a style that you like to play, or it's just come about because you guys have that, you know, clearer communications now?
I would say absolutely. I like to play high pressure early. I think I did. There was a point where I'd like cleared 3 or 4 camps, and then I did Dragon, and it took me like 45 seconds to do Dragon. Because I'm like a level 4 release, and I've like got to juggle the dragon aggro with my spiderlings to like so that I don't get one shot by dragon. And then I kill dragon, and I'm like, okay, team, I'm off the map for like 2 minutes. I've got to clear my jungle because I just had done nothing but like pressure for so long.
Well, look, it's playing off for you guys. You're looking absolutely amazing in the performance, both yourself and Legacy. So congratulations again on that win.
Thank you, Nat.
Big W's. Good to see Sybil always cheery, as always. So, you know, he's very happy with that. Now, I think the 3 of us know what the player that delivered is. But, Nat, do you know who the player that delivered is?
I wanted to be Sybil. I thought he was so great in that interview, too.
Oh, well, you know, unfortunately, your favourite word today, it's not Sybil. It is, however, Fakerzio. Popping off 15, 4, and 5. 80% kill participation. Just running around all over the damn Nexus. And there you have it. Damage share 43%. Just popping off there in the mid lane, Juice.
I guess. Sorry, I want to jump in quickly. I just want to say, you can't deny him a penta and then also player that delivered. You know, that would just be a big old BM on him.
100%. And true. I mean, if you get close to 50% damage share, I mean, if you're even doing 40% damage share, then you deserve the player that delivered. And if you don't get that, then there's probably some metrics wrong in how we're picking that player that delivered. Of course, he did have the karma to enable him, and he had, you know, a Sybil in his back pocket. But nevertheless, he's still got to be in the right position to do the damage, huh?
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, he had that W, and he's also got himself a $100 DoorDash voucher as well, being the DoorDash player that delivered. So big congratulations to Incurzio. And that brings us to the end of match 1 of the day. So, after the break, Direwolves and the Chiefs are going to be going head-to-head. Are we excited for that one?
Kim Dog?
I guess not. I guess don't worry
about it. I really don't know. I'm really unsure what my take is on it right now because, as Juve said at the top of the show, who knows what to expect from Direwolves at the moment. They've been a bit of a slow starter in both splits. Whether or not they can turn it around here for Super Week, I think Chiefs just seem to be on the steamroll of, they don't care.
Yeah, well, I just need to let you guys know that, Juves, earlier in the show, you said you're the hype man, you're the man that brings the hype. And I asked a question which would ask for hype, and I didn't get any. So,
because I'm also the guy who said Direwolves need to step up. I'm also the guy that said, do we stop writing the reputations of previous achievements? I'm also the guy that said we need to see the Direwolves really make a statement this game. Whether they don't win, just show us something. Give us a little bit of bite. Give us a little bit of bark. Give us some bite and then bark and bite and bark. And do what? All right? And give me a little bit of a howl and give me a little bit of a Direwolves.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to woo with you there, but...
On that note, thank you for a wooing. But also, we're going to a break. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go too far. Match 2 coming up just after this one. Enjoy the song of the day from Warner, exclamation playlist, if you want to look at all the sick tunes that we've looked at so far. And we'll see you just after this.
Once more, looking for that initial pick target on towards Sybil. He goes golden. Now Nectar is going to be the recipient of this culling. Now being Incurzio just removing 2 big tanks from the flank. Who cares about it? He burns the flash, but it finds success. He'll find another one. Comes in to steal the deal. Now, it is a little bit too much. Sybil, he's already burnt that stopwatch, mind you, so going to be very susceptible to dying here. The repel goes out, but now he's got Azonia's